Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. Hope you guys all had an awesome holiday weekend, which is kind of weird to say considering that we have another holiday weekend coming up this weekend. But anyways, I'll be posting videos all the way up till Thursday, which I believe is the day before New Year's Eve. So yeah, look forward to that. Make sure to tune in and subscribe if you guys are looking forward to your DBS content as we go into the new year. I'm going to be doing a lot of new set coverage because we have seen the red cards from set 16, so look forward to that. Also, new episode of the Crossworld cast, which I think will come out Wednesday or Thursday, so make sure to look out for that as well. But today, guys, we are going to talk about the Vegeta SCR, which has a lot of differing opinions in the Dragon Ball Super community. It's very, very polarizing, and I have some thoughts on it, so we'll talk about that in today's video. If you're new here, again, make sure to subscribe, and if you guys want to help support the channel, if you want to buy the cards we talk about in today's video or pre-order the Vegeta SCR or anything else for that matter, use my link in the description to TCG Player. It really does help out greatly. That being said, let's get into it. Alright, so of course we have to cover the card we're talking about in today's video. We have SSB Vegeta Unbridled Power, red SCR from set 16, and I gotta say, this is super cool on Bandai's part to reveal the SCR as part of like a Christmas gift to us all. That was really cool. This is nice because a lot of people complain when they have to pre-order sets for Dragon Ball, and rightfully so, where they have to pre-order the sets and they don't know what the SCRs are until a few weeks before release usually. And again, this is a really good thing on Bandai's part. Very fair complaints on behalf of people who pre-order sets like this, because the SCRs really are the money cards of the set, and when you're buying a set, you're typically guaranteed 2 out of the 3 SCRs. So with that in mind, you want to make sure, you know, it's worthwhile getting the whole case, whether it's just for your SPR SR collection or, you know, you really want to crack those specific SCRs. So that's really nice here. But anyways, we have an 8-drop 40k SSB Vegeta dual attack, which seems to be tied to the Sparking 25 if I'm reading this correctly with the order of the way the keywords are placed. So yeah, Sparking 25 allows you to get dual attack, but the rest of the card is unrestricted as far as I'm reading this. So anyways, it's ultimate deflect triple strike, so it's safe from Godsling Technique Trunks, and because it's an 8 cost, it's safe from Charismatic Villain. It does also happen to be safe from Vegeta Powerful Transformation and Yamcha Merciless Barrage, but those matter far less than Charismatic Villain or Godsling Technique. Also, deflect triple strike, like I said. Activate main for 4. Play this card from your hand, and you may have one of your opponent's leader cards get minus 5,000 power for the turn. So a pretty rare red thing, right, where we've seen in the past like cards that minus leaders. That's usually tied pretty heavily to like the baby archetype, and minus 5k on your opponent's leader is nothing absolutely extraordinary, but it is just really good, especially if you have an established board. So, you know, your leader swinging 15 at their leader is now 10k, so they have to combo up to even get out of that. And then obviously when this thing attacks for its dual attack triple strike, it's going to be a lot harder to combo out of if they're not going to be negating the effects. So activate main, remove this card from the game, choose all your opponent's battle cards and unison cards, ignoring barrier, place them in their owner's drop areas, then place 1 card from your opponent's life in their drop area. So now this is the really big like kicker part of the card that I think a lot of people are, again, polarized about. I think this is very strong. So basically for 4 energy, you get an entire board wipe, including a unison, and it does ignore barriers. So that's also very relevant, especially now with like Icarus really leaning into the slug engine. That's a really good example of how this can be utilized. And then you get to crit your opponent's life. You get to crit them for 1 life. So what this means is, let's say like in the perfect scenario, your opponent's at 4 life, you get 2 opportunities to drop them to 1 with this thing swinging for triple strike, and then you get to just like crit their last life and basically win the game. Likewise, at any time your opponent's at 1 life, this is a 4 energy win button, because there are not many things that can stop this guy's activate main, considering the fact that he has deflect. There are 2 like really random cards that come to mind. There's the Android 17 counterplay in yellow that is sort of like a Cold Bloodlust, but it's in the auto step, so it technically gets around deflect. It doesn't stop enter play effects, but it does stop like activate mains like this. Then you also have the Deborah counterplay in black, which same thing, prevents skills from activating for the rest of that turn. So those are 2 cards that technically get around this guy's activate main, but those cards are not super popular in the meta. So as far as the meta goes for right this second, and what it'll probably will be in set 16, this guy's activate main is pretty much uninterruptible. The only real problem you run into that's meta relevant is yellow. Mostly Vegeta's Final Flash. Like if you swing with this thing for one of the two swings with dual attack and you get Vegeta Final Flashed, well, now your activate main can't be activated. That's a big problem. Other yellow cards that do give this guy a problem but are far less played, you have Time Magic and you have Release from Evil. Time Magic will mostly to stop the dual attack element of the card. No damage will come through except for the activate main. Release from Evil, you will still have to deal with that initial 40k attack, but you do blank all the skills and prevent him from restanding. So again, the activate main is going to be pretty much null and void. So this card's maybe a bit weak against yellow, but against everything else, this card is really strong. Its effect is always going to resolve for the most part. But the really important thing here to do is to compare this to all the other potential red SCRs you could be playing, because there are other mono red SCRs, and you kind of have to weigh the value of this card versus those cards. So I do want to talk about some of the other red SCRs. My opinion, the best generic red SCR before, set 16 at least, is SS3 Gohank's Interdimensional Warrior. This card is somewhat similar to Vegeta in that it offers a board wipe. It doesn't really kill a Unison, at least as part of its auto, but it still is an ignoring barrier board wipe for most things on your opponent's board. And it also offers defense, because when they attack, you have the +1, you get to -25 something, and then the -4, it can be a dual attack triple striker, much like Vegeta itself. So again, pros and cons. Vegeta's able to remove Unisons, which is really strong. Technically, Vegeta can also remove more things from the board, because Gohank's only offers you a -25k board wipe, but a lot of times that's gonna be getting rid of most of your opponent's battle cards, so that's not too crazy of a point. The one plus side to Gohank's though is again that it offers you some really strong defense, because not only do you have the +1, but you also have the ability to block with the card, so that's really good. But I can definitely see pros to Vegeta, where again you want to be removing Unisons, and maybe you don't want to take up your Unison slot, because I will say in red decks like Jiren and other ones that I've built recently, Gohank's has always been a consideration, but there's just so many times you don't want to drop your main engine Unison for Gohank's. That's a really relevant thing. Even like in starter Vegeta, for example, your deck relies so heavily on a 2-cost red Unison for a lot of different effects that Gohank's is a great card, but you don't want to get rid of your 2-drop Unison just to go into Gohank's. So that's where Vegeta gets an upside as well. Frieza Army Reborn's not been a super popular red SCR in recent metas, but I thought it was worth mentioning because it is an ignoring barrier board wipe. It also lets you pick a card out of your opponent's hand. So if they have the final negate, you can go in with this guy for quad strike, and it's not too difficult for most decks to get to 2 life when they want to. Especially now we have the blocker negates, like testing the opposition. That can be a much more easy thing to reach. But I will say, I think Vegeta is much better than Frieza Armor Reborn in most ways, because at any point in the game it's a 4-drop, and he's also essentially a quad striker because of his triple strike plus his ability to burn your opponent for 1, so that's really good. And honestly, I never really thought Goku Frieza Miraculous Conclusion was all that great of an SCR. It's got a lot of the same problems that SSB Vegeta has, in that it loses to a lot of yellow cards, mainly Vegeta's Final Flash, because even though its permanent says it can't be removed from your battle area by your opponent's skills, if they can negate that skill and then remove it, that's not really going to help you out. But yeah, I mean, this card just doesn't really threaten as much as I think Vegeta does. I think Vegeta is a much better SCR than Goku Frieza Miraculous Conclusion. I think Frieza Goku is really more of just like a collector item than anything else. Like, it could be playable, but I'd honestly rather play Vegeta and Gohank's, and then above that, I'd still rather play Frieza Armor Reborn as like a 3rd place option for an SCR in a mono red deck if I had to play a mono red SCR. So I think in terms of like comparing these to Vegeta, I think Gohank's gives Vegeta the biggest run for its money, but again, for the reasons I stated, like giving up your Unison slot and being a 4 energy play basically whenever you want, I think Vegeta is a little better in most scenarios than Gohank. So compared to all these cards, I personally would put Vegeta above those, because again, it can be a game-ending threat as well as just a total board wipe, getting rid of a Unison whenever you wanted to. But that's not to say that this Vegeta card is going to be playable or played in every single red deck going forward, because we still have Pan, Time Patrol Maiden, and Supreme Kai of Time, Space Time Unraveler. These cards, even though they're not red, are playable in basically any deck in the game from now to forever until they get banned or power crept or something like that. So comparing Vegeta to Space Time Unraveler they're very similar in the sense of their board wipe. I will give Vegeta the advantage because obviously it ignores barrier, which isn't super relevant to unisons, but it's relevant to battle cards. Again, like Icarus leaning into the Lord Slug engine, that's a very relevant thing there. But Space Time Unraveler costing 1, or I guess 2 for the play and board wipe effect, as opposed to Vegeta costing 4. So if you think about it this way, you're basically paying 2 more energy to be able to ignore barrier, which in some circumstances I think can be a worthwhile trade-off. 2 more energy to ignore barrier on your opponent's entire board. That obviously is going to depend on how much barrier your opponent has in play, but again, like Spring Kai of Time just seems to be a little bit more flexible. And even though the defensive prowess of Space Time Unraveler is not quite what it was, it still offers something defensively, as where Vegeta is mostly an offensive proactive type of card, albeit I think it's a very powerful card. Pan Time Patrol Maiden, there's not much you can do to compare this to Vegeta. They're basically totally different cards that do totally different things. They don't really have a similarity like Vegeta and Space Time Unraveler, but I only listed it here because a lot of decks will heavily consider playing Pan, and it does have really good offensive power, especially in red decks that are really good at spamming a board, like Starter Vegeta, like U7 Gohan, like Red Jiren, Red Broly, and possibly some of these other decks coming out in set 16. So while I think Vegeta is a very, very powerful card, I don't think it's going to be the de facto SCR in red decks because these 2 cards still exist. But I think it'll still see play. And keep in mind too, the card does have a Vegeta's Lineage tag on it, so who knows, maybe we'll get some more Vegeta's Lineage support in the future. Maybe there will be something that can swap into that Vegeta. That'd be kind of cool. But anyways, those are just my thoughts. I would rank it higher than the other red SCRs we currently have access to, but I don't think it automatically gets slotted into every red deck because Space Time Unraveler and Pan exist. But of course, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.